Hi, my name is Brian Carnes. I'm the lead designer and creator of Sailpower. And today I'd like to talk to you about your ship sheet. If it's your first time playing Sailpower, it's likely that somebody handed you a boat, some sort, and a ship sheet. And it's a piece of paper and it's got lots of stuff on it and it's pretty intimidating, right? We wanted to take a little bit of that mystery away today, so let's get started. First thing you need to know is that the ship sheet is designed to be folded in half, right down the center. Now, the reason for that is that everything you need operationally for your ship is on the front. Your plotting of movement will happen on the inside, and stuff about your ship's equipment and what it can carry is on the back. So you'll notice like there's abilities here that the ship has like extra sail and it has a cargo capacity, things like that. That's all in the back. And there's a note spot to put whatever notes you want to put. The idea of that is it's not sitting forward on the play surface with the all your super private notes sitting there. If you have a super secret note, maybe you keep it on the inside along with your movement. But so that's basically, we call this a ship's log, and you'll notice the name is in the upper corner. You can fill in a name if you need to, and if you capture other ships, then they kind of hold like playing cards, so you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, and just kind of hold them like a hand, and you just kind of shuffle between your ships. All right, so all the ship stats can be found in the Sailpower rulebook. There's charts, and there's like hundreds, like 250, something like that, ships that are in that statted already. There's also in the rule book a system. If you have your favorite ship from history and it's not in our list of ships, you could actually make your own stats to fill out your ship sheet. But most of the time at conventions, or if you're running a game where somebody is hopefully a little bit prepared, everything's filled out for you along the spine. So you'll have the original values up here. Okay? And also on the pre-filleds, you'll notice that the speeds are filled in as well. Alright? So, the first thing that we want to talk about real quick is kind of what is on the front and what you need to translate over at the start of the game. So all the original values are again along here, and the idea is that they copy over to the corresponding areas on the actual running of the ship sheet, so that if your ship takes damage or is different than the starting stats in some way, it's recorded out here operationally, but you know what the original values are. So like if you were taking damage to your hull, obviously you can't repair it past the original value. You can't make it a bigger ship or something, so you need to know what that original value is. So that's why they're there, so you can reference them. But in general, up at the top, you'll have a speed plot. It explains what your speed is. If you're a sailor, this will seem a little bit backwards because it takes in perspective the God's eye view or the helicopter view of you looking down at your ship, as opposed to, as a sailor, you'd be staying on the deck of your ship, so you think of the wind as coming at you and affecting you, whereas the gamer is looking at their little model and seeing the wind blow over it. So that's, if you are sailors, a point of confusion that we often clarify to new players. Is like, well, this will look a little strange till you understand that it's designed for a gamer. Alright, but the speeds are there. We can talk about that in another video. Down below that, we have your crew allocation. A general broad strokes overview of that is that you'll notice that there's aloft, repair, deck, boarding below, and they're arranged in a cross. Okay, now the rule of transferring crew is that you can only transfer to an adjacent square, and adjacent means includes the diagonals. So if I have a guy below and I want to send him aloft, he's got to go to the deck first because he can't go directly from below to aloft. Likewise, if I have a guy in boarding, he can't go directly to repair. He'd have to go to the deck first. And the reason is, obviously, that guy's completely rekitting. He's switching out weapons for tools. So, you can kind of shuffle guys. So, like, if you had guys below and you had guys on deck, you send the deck guys aloft, send the below guys to deck, and that kind of does the same thing. But just transfer it to any adjacent square. The other thing you can do on this little organizer is separate out people that are unique in some way. So a good example is, you'll notice there's an aloft field, there's only one. And so obviously you have your guys that are sailing the ship and they're not armed at all. And then you have maybe guys that stand up in these little platforms, the fighting tops. Those are sharpshooters. So usually what we'll do is separate those out with parentheses, so we know which ones are sharpshooters and which ones are sail crew. All right. Looking down the sheet here, you have the hit points of your vessel. There's two little check boxes there for the wheel and the rudder. Hopefully you don't lose those, but if you do, you can check them off there so that you can remember. Trust me, you probably won't remember, won't want to remember that you're missing your wheel, but it does impact the game, so you have to remember it. The stats in this game, the hit points are based on the old burden measure of tonnage. And the originals are along the spine there. So what you'll see is, like in this particular one, it has 90 hull, so it's a 90-ton vessel. It has a bowsprit, which is 10, and a main mast, which is 40. So it's a one-mast vessel. It's not very big. You'll notice that the rigging is about half, give or take, of what the hull points are. And so you write those in there. If you're not using something like, obviously this ship doesn't have a mizzen mast, doesn't have a foremast, just cross them out. That's not a problem. All right. And as you take damage, you just erase the number and you can mark it down. Hopefully you don't take too much damage. But, that's combat. It could happen. So down below that, you'll have this cute little deck organizer for guns. And it's split between left and right sides, as you can see. Bow and stern chasers are at the bottom. So you'll notice that your cannons are recorded here, and one thing I want to point out is we use a computer to do this, and the delineating character is a /. So that's how we divide. So you would have noticed that with the speeds and the hull, bow, fore, main, all that kind of stuff. And if it's blank, that means there's nothing there. So just kind of explaining how that works, concession of the computer age. This one has 6C. The C is short for cannon, so it's like a 4 to 6 pounder naval cannon. All right, and I have 6 of them total. I actually have 3 on a side, so just because it says 6C doesn't mean I have 6 cannons on each side. I have a total of 6. So I would actually split it out between the deck. I'd have 3 cannons and 3 cannons. And 3C, 3C. Below deck guns in this game are significantly harder to hit. It'll tell you if you have those. But they go on like below 1. If you've got a giant ship, you might have a below 2, a below 3, and so on. You can see it allows for a lot more than that. And then the chase guns are down here at the bottom. So if you have bow chasers, you put them there, and stern chasers are right underneath that. So looking at the rest of the ship real quick, if you look at the back, this camera is not the most focusy, and I do apologize for that. Up top here, you have whether it has officers or Marines. Pirate ships don't have Marines, but most naval ships do. They're useful for quality checks. One thing I want to point out to you is that if it says you have 6 officers, you got 20 Marines. This one doesn't have 20 Marines, but if it did, that's still out of your total crew. And another hard and fast rule is you can never exceed double your ship's starting complement. So if you stop by a port and you recruit and you get a bunch of guys, or you find them on an island, or you rescue them from another ship, you can never go over double whatever your starting complement is. It's just kind of a fast rule. Wasn't a problem for the longest time, but then people started getting really creative, and next thing you know, you had a problem. In the Age of Sail, that would be a point at which you run out of rack space for your men. That becomes a problem. Also, on the back there, you'll have abilities, which the one in the new player guide says Seasoned Pirates. This particular one doesn't really have any, but you might have stuff related to the faction that you're playing. Different factions have different abilities, such as the Royal Navy firing twice, or the Americans, their marksman bonus. You can put that there. Underneath that is equipment, which is things like sweeps. You might ask, what are sweeps? Sweeps are 10-foot long oars that are used to move the ship about when the winds are horrible. They're also used for kind of navigating out of port or pulling off or things like that. So they're giant oars. Extra sail. That one, people always ask me. Usually they get into the game because I forget to mention it during the game spiel, and they're like, "What is this extra sail thing?" Well, extra sail is studding sails. If you're a sailor, you'll know what that is. The tall ships, they're little sails that spread out like wings to either side of your mast, and they give you extra speed. So you also have your ship's boats are listed there. So like launches and longboats and things like that. Those are little craft that you can use to either help get you to an island that's just kind of just out of range, or you might send them on a little submission. We've had players take a major gold load back to port in their small boat because they didn't want to risk sailing on into the battle they were going into with it. We've had people that have sent a shore party on an island hopping tour with their small boat. So you can be creative with your small craft, but whatever you have is listed there. And then down below that, you've got your cargo capacity. Can't exceed your cargo capacity in the game. What you'll notice is that warships tend to have a very little cargo capacity versus their tonnage, whereas merchant ships, their tonnage and their cargo capacity are about the same. So some ships are better at carrying cargo than others. You wouldn't want to exceed it. The GM will probably sink you if you do that. And that's where you'd record, what you found, how many points it was worth, anything like that. Then below that is your fleet points. That's what you're worth to your opponent if you're captured. If you're a merchant, that's the amount of victory points you can get as a loan. Obviously, as a merchant, the one thing you have is your ship. You could put that up as surety towards any venture you want to make in the port. And then you also have your notes. Again, notes is anything that's game important that you want to remember, you can stick it there. If you have need of extra space, you can overflow into the inside of your ship sheet. Just maybe do your movement on this side and then overflow notes on the other side. So that's your ship sheet in a nutshell. Hopefully that's been illuminating for you. Again, I'm Brian with Sea Dog Game Studios. Have a great day.